Let's bang out a super crispy pork belly on the barbecue with an Asian fusion. Righto, step one, prep or mise en place for you fancy buggers. This is undoubtedly the most important part of a crispy pork belly. Arguably prep is more important with a beautiful crispy pork belly with any other large secondary cuts of meat. The reason for that is we want to crackle at the end with minimal effort. So the way we achieve that, bang it into the fridge for 72 hours uncovered. We want to draw as much moisture out of that skin as possible, or get your butcher to do it for you. So with the power of Harry Potter,
you're a wizard, Harry.
Fast forward 72 hours, we've got our pork. I'll show you how crispy this skin is. Jeffrey Dahmer would be proud of this one. So it's that dry skin, it's this prep phase, just like spray painting an old Tirana. This prep phase is what's going to give you the absolutely cracking result at the end. Now that it's dried in the fridge for 72 hours, this is a point that we're going to season it up and we're going to go fire up the barbie. And then just quickly before we do that, we're going to jackknife the skid with this pig torturing device. This is going to stab about 1,174 holes into the surface of the skin. That's going to allow some of that oil, some of that heat to penetrate under and give it a nice, bubbly, crackly surface at the end. Now just go hammer and tongue on this until you've got a nice even coverage of holes. That should about do it. Let's flip it on the guts and we'll season the meat side. Now we want a rub that's going to complement that pork perfectly with a nice tone of savouriness and a hint of sweetness at the back end, not to overpower the sweetness in the pork. Now if you do have a metric shizer load of silver skin or fat on the back end, completely up to you. You can trim that off. Fat equals flavour, so I wouldn't be too worried, but silver skin, definitely bugger that off because it can ruin the mouthfeel of the pork itself. Now season from about 30 to 40 centimetres in height. We just want to make sure we don't get any of that rub on the skin side because we don't want that to burn. Ensure your pat, definitely don't rub, save that for the bedroom. Now, one thing that's not spoken about a lot when it comes to barbecue is the quantity of rub that you put in. Now, obviously taste is subjective. For me in particular, as you can see, this pork belly has a little bit of a divot in the middle. You often see it with brisket. You know, you have the point end that goes down to the flat, a lot thinner. As you're passing over, additional layers on the thicker side. So if you've got a brisket for argument's sake, and it's 4 times thicker than the flat, bang on about 4 times more rub on that point side, or you can take a couple of layers off. When you get to the end, make sure you bang on to finishing season at the end so you still got that nice balance of flavour between the thin and the thick ends. Right, I can't be bothered cleaning, so the power of Pogger. Now this is key, right? Having your pork belly angled when you're cooking drains away a lot of that fat. So you can use an angled rack like I am here, or my favourite, because I'm tighter than a fistful of you-know-whats, an angled piece of alfoil, and you can lean the pork belly against it. That will drain that liquid away and reduce the chances of the liquid pooling on top of the pork belly and ruining all that nice crispy crackling at the end. Like I said, pork belly angled up, just like that. It's a piece of cake. Time to head outside and fire up the barbie. So, battle plug is on. Don't go outside without them. Not out camping today. I only need to go 2-wheel drive. Now, you've probably heard me mention fire up the barbie. It's not just the literal meaning of firing up the barbie. For me personally, if I've got a bit of head noise going on, feeling a little bit like arse, firing up the barbie, whether it be charcoal, gas, wood, like this old girl, or a cheeky pellet smoker, it's just that way we can concentrate on that food for that period of time, push all those external noises out, and that's all you have to worry about. So fire up the barbie. Now, quick tip, if you have run out of fire lighters, you're not keen on using a ferro rod, etc., some pink butcher's paper or even some paper towel wrapped tightly, a little bit of vegetable on top was a perfect way to start up your fire. Today I'm using a chimney booster, bang that straight on top, let that rip, and that will cut the time down by at least 5 to 7 minutes. And this is absolutely no BS, that was probably about 5 minutes. Quickly shake off all the excess before I bang it in. Now, as you can see here, they're not completely ashed over, but the big thing with the pork is I want to start off on a low heat, finish off high, so we don't completely destroy that crackle at the beginning, because it's much easier just to pump the heat at the end. So, because we're cooking with charcoal, tiny bit of cherry wood on the end, that will sort of burn through like a fuse towards the end. We'll put the pork on in about 10 minutes, once we're happy with the ambient temperature of the kettle, and then we'll let it rip for about an hour. Grill grate on. If you're using a compartmentalized one like myself, have the grates that hinge over the top of the fire, so you can make any adjustments on the fly if required. Now, if you're running a charcoal cooker like I am on the kettle, you want to have the vents open to about 50%, because like I said, we'll open them up to 100% and possibly even add some lit charcoal at the end to really get that crackle setting. Now, if you're on a gas barbecue, or an oven, you want to cook it around 150 to 160 Celsius. Then we'll pump them up to about 250 at the end to punch that crackle out. Right, it's now been about a tenner, sitting at a perfect heat. That pork that we've got angled, remember you can use the alfoil or you can use the angled rack like me. Go on the opposite side of the kettle, skin facing towards the fire. We'll see this in about an hour. Now, if you decided to cook on a kettle or smoker, just make sure it's not billowing white, nice and thin blue smoke like this. And pepper the pig in the sauna. We do have a couple of options when it comes to the pork belly. If you're not 100% confident with the feel and the texture like I am, bang a meat probe, and then when it hits about 90 odd Celsius, you know you're gonna have a nice tender pork belly, because I've noticed a lot of people bring it out early like a typical roast loin, and belly being a secondary cut can be taken a lot further and make it melt in the mouth. The other option is get a meat skewer when it can push through like warm apple pie. You know you're good to go, right? As they say, if you're looking at it cooking, so let's go bang out the glaze while this is cooking. Right, next cab off the rank, Adobe Aussie Q-ish type glaze. It's a bit of an adobe sauce, but I've put my sort of spin on it. So we're gonna start off, we're gonna go half an onion. You know what, it'd normally be a white onion or a yellow, but guess what, don't have it. So we're gonna go red. So we're just gonna finely dice that up, put it to the side. Hot little tip, if you don't have a bin at your doorstep, just have a bag. I've got a plastic bag here, just so I can dump everything straight into it. Just saves a bit of time. In the cutlery drawer, makes life a ton easier. Now, if you want a traditional adobe, I've done an actual barbecue version, because I like to put my barbecue spin on everything. So if you check out the socials, I've uploaded a few different versions over the last sort of 3 years, but the main thing is I did a pork adobo, and I banged that into the barbecue, gave it some smoke, some flavour. It's just so much elevated over doing it in the pan. So I like to leave the root side on, keep it nice and simple. Then from there, basically you just want to break it up. So you've just got thin little pieces, just so we can saute it off in the pan till it's nice and translucent. Nice and simple. You can dice it, completely up to you. It's that flavour we want. I just give it a little quick rough chop. Now, if you don't have a stainless steel scooper like this, do yourself a favour. How much easier is that? It's crazy, doesn't affect your knife, and I've got one with sides on it, so I can pick it up nice and easy. I can transport it wherever I want, so I can get the rest of the gear and I can go punch straight into it. So for example, ginger, I'm gonna go about 2 tablespoons of ginger, and then you can just grate that straight on top. A lot easier than your dough scraper style, because stuff sort of spills out the side. I could have drilled that in one scoop, no drama. So we're gonna go aim for about 2 tablespoons of ginger. Just use the back of a spoon or whatever. You can take the skin off, no dramas. Now for the garlic, after you've just given it a bit of a belting, take off the skin, and then we're just gonna mince it, bang it in with the rest of the gear. Now completely up to you. I'm just gonna mince them, do this Joseph X squared thing. It's actually pretty bloody handy. Let's go saute these up. Now you can use butter or veggie oil. I'm gonna use about 2 tablespoons of beef tallow. Check my previous videos if you want to see how I did that. Nice and easy. So that's what I want to use as the base. Give it a nice beefy flavour to that pork. Onion, garlic and ginger in. Now I'll have that on low to medium heat, basically until that onion goes slightly translucent. Then we make sure we turn the heat right down, because we don't want to burn the soy sauce that's in the glaze. Add 1/3 cup of light soy, optional extra, maybe 2 tablespoons of dark just for that colour. Then we're going to go cup of lemonade. quarter cup of vinegar. White vinegar will be fine, or even rice wine vinegar. Instead of brown sugar, I'm going to get a tablespoon of maple sugar. It just adds a beautiful depth of flavour. Now, if you want to be slightly healthy, just cut out the sugar or even just reduce it by half. Now, remember what I said about heat? We want it on the lowest you can go because we do not want to burn that soy. Basically, we're going to let this rip until it sort of thickens up. You can see it's almost about the same thickness as water. You want the viscosity in between water and honey. Then we can turn the heat off, and as soon as that pork is ready, then we can reheat it and drizzle it straight over the top. Now, sneaky Mrs. Q, while I was away, did a medley of some mushrooms on the pan with obviously some oil, some garlic, cabbage, banged it all together with some salt, pepper to season it up. Absolutely cracking with this dish. Right, so I'm just going to use a funnel. You can just pour this straight over the pork, completely up to you. It's been about 15 minutes. As you can see, going through with very little resistance, just a nice little bit of tightness. You don't have to completely fall apart on this, that's exactly what you're looking for. But fun fact, that's sitting at about 85 Celsius in turn. Right, we're going to spark some more charcoal up. It's at this point, if you're on the gas or barbecue, or if you're in the oven, you want to turn it up to about 250 Celsius, because we want to get that crackle absolutely pumping. Right, we've now amped up the charcoal. Look at the colour though. That would put stiffy on us now. Right, let's put the lid on. We'll come back in about 10 minutes. Check it out. Now, just a tip, in this high heat phase when you're pumping up that crackle, if you start to get hot spots, straight away put a bit of foil over the top. That will equalise the heat across the top, and you won't have any bits as ashy as you. Now that the crackle's set, just grab a bit of foil. Basically, just going to scrunch it up and just wrap it around all the meat side. We're going to let that rest for about 15 minutes, let those juices redistribute. But just avoid getting the crackle because we don't want to soften that up, right? All right, we'll let that sit for about 15 minutes. Right, it's been about 15 minutes. Have a listen to this. Wrap your laughing gear around that. How good does that look? You've got all the juice. You can even see some of that smoke ring. You've got beautiful crackle. You've got absolutely the best of everything. Have a go at that. Just look at the colour on that side. Insane. Right, before we put this dish together, let's give this pork belly a red hot crack, shall we? Exactly what you'd expect, cooking that pork onto the barbecue. Right, let's put it all together and show you the final piece. Right, there you go, Mrs. Q banged out a vegetable medley. We've also got some chips on there. Get a load of that pork. Come on, stop it. The colour, that's what you're chasing if you want to do it on the barbecue. You still get an absolutely cracking result, obviously, on the gasser. Not quite the same, though. Some of that crackle on top. Now, very importantly, you're going to hammer that glaze that we made before. Now that you got the finished product, this is where you start peacocking around the house. Tell everyone how good your dish is. How good does it look, though? Let's get you laughing around that. Righto, you unlubed weapons. Thank you very much for watching the whole video. I hope you enjoyed that pork belly barbecue adventure. What do you want to see next? Bang it into the comments, whether it be cooking at home, out on the campsite. Let us know. Cheers. Bang it in.